there's no fathomable reason that I could have thought of that would say, let's move to Atlanta, that made sense to have me leave my son and my parents in New York. And so if you're gonna come in the way, then let's be done. Like, it would not have turned me into who I am today. I made $500,000 on this house, bro. On a house that I paid nothing to get, I made $500,000 on this house, bro. I think that's when it hit me that money is not what you're after. That's when it hit me. When I got $500,000 all at once, and I had I was happy for 5 minutes. And then it was like, well, we gotta continue to do. I'm like, I'm not after money. This is not what I'm after. I'm after purpose. I think I knew I was always pursuing purpose, but that's when it hit me that money is not what I'm after. And I think even sometimes when I don't hit my financial goals and stuff, I'm not stressed because it's just like, I know it's not about money. Like, that was probably the biggest lesson ever when it comes to money, right there. You know, the reason why I actually started real estate was because we were gonna get money for that house, where the government, they wanted to do construction on one of the streets, and they wanted to cut into our yard, but they wanted to pay us. And we were gonna get about $160,000. It was the most money that I was gonna see ever in one sitting. And that money made me say, like, what do we do with this money? Because I'm not gonna be a lottery winner where the money just disappears. And it was that made me go back on course to figuring out how to be successful, what to do with money, how to understand money. And that's when I started reading a book called Tax-Free Wealth. And that Tax-Free Wealth book led me to real estate. And that's when I went back to my wife and I said, we have to do real estate, because real estate is where the wealthy people end up. So if we become valuable to wealthy people, then we would make money. That was my concept. It wasn't because I seen this happen or all of that. And that was 2019, the end of 2019. And, God is so funny, because I started reading the book. 2020 is when we actually started real estate. And our journey went on. Do you know that we didn't get that money until 2022 from that house? We did not get that money that triggered me to take all this action, to start wholesaling, make all that money wholesaling, start buying all these properties and all of that. The thing that triggered me to do it, I didn't get the money until 2022. And there's so many stories that come to mind with that, where it's like, God don't give you what you're not ready for. And that's how I took it. I'm like, he was preparing me to know, like, when you get it, here's how you multiply it, right? Like, he didn't give it to me when I wasn't ready for it. If he had given it to me in 2019, I would have probably still been in New York screwed. But I got the knowledge, and now I'm able to steward over it. And then he gave it to me when it was time. And so it was like, at that point, I didn't even need it from we're broke and we could do something with it. It was now like, okay, now this is gonna go invest, right? You take it and you invest it. And so I didn't get that money, but that one thing triggered a whole lot of things. And another piece to this house was We got the money because the government wanted to cut into the roads, like I told you, into our yard. Why would God have us buy that house? Right? Like now I'm thinking like this. I'm like, he knew my steps before I made it. Because the government don't just decide tomorrow that they're gonna cut into the house. They planned this for years. And so this plan was done years ago. Me not knowing, I bought this house that was no money down, no anything. But at the right time, it triggered me. So it's like he knows our steps before we even know, right? And so it made me be like, how faithful God really is, really. And I'm like, wow, so he's already like 100 steps ahead of me in planning up my next move. But here's the thing to me buying that house. At that point in time, I was dating this young lady, and she didn't want me to buy the house. But I knew God had instructed me to buy the house because she was living at a certain part in New York, and this was up further. Her parents felt like we should have bought a house together versus me going out and doing something on my own. So they felt like I was kind of like doing this to take her away and do all this type of stuff. And so there was a little bit of drama around that. But I felt like God was challenging me to, like, whose voice was I going to listen to? And, you know, ended up continuing and doing what I felt like I was being led to do. And then that happened. And when I sit down and I rework the things that and challenges that God had put me through to get to this point, I mean, even coming from New York to Atlanta, like, there's no fathomable reason that I could have thought of that would say, let's move to Atlanta, that made sense to have me leave my son and my parents in New York. No fathomable reason. But God had one. It was my wife's mom. She had cancer. She had leukemia. And we were going back and forth from New York, being caretakers, taking care of her. And it got to the point where I felt like my wife and I, we were arguing over the spoon being here versus over there. But it only happened when we got back to New York. So that made me think, we're on edge in New York because we're concerned about her mom in Atlanta. And so while doing my devotions one morning, like I think I was telling you earlier today, I read the Bible very like one word at a time, and I read it over and over until I have revelation. And I got revelation on something that I was reading in Matthew. I think it was Matthew 29, just around the same scripture that we were talking about earlier about not being able to, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man. And then when Jesus said, so I got revelation on that text, and the exact story right past it was when he explained that anyone who leaves his father, his mother, his this, his that, to follow me would get blessings 100-fold, essentially. That was the absolute next text. You know when that text came? When I had that internal thought of, man, do we go? And when I had the internal thought of, do I leave my 9-to-5 job? Both at the same time. And that text was like pop, 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 go. I cried. Like I legit was scared. I was freaked out. I woke up my. This is like 4 o'clock. I woke up my wife, bawling in tears, legit, like crying because I'm like, we gotta go. She's like, you're tripping. No, we're not. We're not leaving David and your parents and all that type of stuff. She's like, no, we're not doing it. I'm like, God said so, so we're doing it. And I told her, and she was like, dude, are you sure it's God or whatever? I'm like, it's him. And I mean, some of the most difficult conversations I had was in that time where I remember telling my parents, they were supportive. I remember like the difficultness came to when I had to tell my son's mom and then my son. Those were probably the most difficult conversations to have. And when I called my son's mom, she was like, okay, I get it. She's like, that's very hard on me. And she has a guy and all of that. And so I'm just like, I'm gonna talk to him and just ask him to really step up and help out in the things that I did for my son. And just really give him the not the pass, but give him the respect to say, I really need your help here to look out and to cut my son's hair and all that type of stuff, the things that I did. Of course, he's not his father, but there are things that he's gonna need help with. And so we had a conversation and all of that. And then I spoke to my son. And we both sat on the stairs and cried, man. It was tough for him. It was tough. I think it's something that he still deals with. But that was the situation that got me to leave my job and move here to Atlanta. All started from that stupid check, right? Well, I can't even say it started from that, but it started from God just knowing what he needs me to do. And so he used people, and it's really hard for me to say that, to force us to get to a place where he could then use us. And this is why I believe, even if we were to kind of use the context in which I talk about things when it comes to paradigms, he needed us to get away from the habits and behaviors that I was around in New York, because I probably would never be the person that I am today being in the same environment around the same habits. I cannot see it. I can't fathom it, because I like hanging out with my parents. I like the Sunday hangouts that we do. And I'm an everyday family person. Like I talk to my parents almost every day. That's the way it used to be. They used to live upstairs from me when I bought that house. So every day when I got home, I'll say hi to my wife, hang out with her for a bit, and then I'm gonna go hang up upstairs with my parents. That was just what I did. That was our culture, our paradigms, right? Like, but it would not have turned me into who I am today being here. And so he used situations to get us over here to be on this island by ourselves. And all we had to do was love on each other, work it out. And that's like a 10-hour video talking about the trials that my wife and I went through being alone out here. And when I say alone, she has family out here. She has, like, her mom used to live out here before she passed. But it's that island of us not being dependent on others, but on ourselves. And it forced us to unite and even learn how to work more together. And that was a process, but that forced me out of my comfort. It forced me into into leadership, into learning, into God, and God more than anything else, because every day it was, what do I do today? And I still ask him every single day, what do you need me to do today, man? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I legit, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, dude. So what do I do today? I had 1,000% surrenderance to him and what was next. Any test, because I still pray a very scary prayer, which is, use me, I'll do anything you say. Super scary, but that's the prayer that I pray to this day. What do you need me to do? If you need me to quit doing this and do something else, I'll do it. And even as I say it right now, I'm like choking up, because I'm like, don't do that, please. Right? But it's like, but I'll do it. And I'll legit do it. And I keep myself that open, because I never want to be like that person that God say to leave everything and follow me, and I'm not willing to do it. Like, I never want to be that person. And so it's always like, what do you need me to do, man? Like, just tell me. I'll drop this in a heartbeat. And I tell my wife all the time, anything that brings us apart, that she doesn't agree with, I'll drop it in a heartbeat. And she knows that. And I think God tested me on this, because when we got together, that's when I was doing my Amazon business, doing $30,000 a month on Amazon. And God told me, I need you to drop that. I need you to stop your Amazon business and focus on your wife. And every single one of my friends told me that I was an idiot, because I just met my wife. We got married 6 months after I met her. And so I'm about to stop doing this thing that was going to change my life for the stranger that I just met, that I married. 6 months, you're a stranger still, right? But that story of Joseph going to sacrifice his son, where this son that he waited to his old age for, and then God said, go sacrifice it. I felt like that was me, where I had built up this thing that I had finally started to figure out, this wealth thing. And God was like, yeah, I need you to take it up on a hill and go burn it. I was like, okay. I gave it up against what everybody else said to me. I'm like, this is what I think God, and God speaks in thoughts and ideas. So it's not like a auditory voice that told me to do it. So I'm like, I think this is him. So I'm putting all of my faith in this thought. I said, I don't know if it's me, but I'm in a season of learning your voice. So I'm gonna do it. And it is what it is. And that got me to stop my business to focus on her. And what I realized was, in focusing on her really meant I needed to focus on me. And that's what got me to go internal and become a man that was not pointing fingers at his partner, because she started to say a lot of the similar things that made me get a divorce from my first marriage. 2, I was engaged to be married, and all of the similar things that was said and my trajectory, where the main thing was I was focused on the American dream and making money and putting that in front of my partners, because I'm like, I got to do this. And so if you're going to come in the way, then let's be done. And that's how I thought. I'm like, you're not going to come in the way of my success. And so go to the side, and then like it's not a relationship. And I seen the same thing happening with her, where with the Amazon business, I'm like, you got to do this. If you come in the way, then, then you got to leave. And God convicted me one day, bro. And I'm like, this is on me. This is all on me. I need to become somebody different. And then at that point in time, I was the person that was worshiping money more than what I believe God says, and my wife is right after him. And so if my wife is right after him, but money is right, I can't even say after him at that point in time. It probably was before him, if I were to be really honest. I had to start shifting some things. And that was the beginning of me putting money in its right place and being the servant instead of my master, because it was my master before. And then that's when my life started to change.